Hey everyone, it's Jeff. And despite the fact that there's like three really great NBA games going on today, I am going to talk about the Hawks versus the Sixers. Now, I'll admit, I was a pretty big Hawks doubter coming into this year. I did not like the fact that they picked Onyeka Okongwu in the draft, mostly because I thought his talents were better used somewhere else. And also, I felt like this team had too much talent in terms of just had like 9 guys that were able to play like 30 minutes a game, right? And I thought that, someone was going to be unhappy with the role they're going to get. But, everything's clicked for them, especially late in the season. You kind of saw that when I was afraid for them happening early on in the year, right? Back when they're still under Lloyd Pierce. Trae Young was pretty much dominating the ball and doing everything, and it wasn't so much that his teammates were getting unhappy, but there was some tension rumored between him and John Collins. And then they just had like a ton of injuries, right? Obviously, though, it's all worked itself out, and against New York, they played extremely well. And I did not expect all of these players to just buy in like that, but they've been extremely unselfish, especially John Collins, who I think he's kind of underappreciated when it comes to just, we all know he's very talented. He can score like 20 points per game, right? But I think the fact that he's been content to just kind of take like 9 shots a game sometimes is pretty, admirable for me. And in my opinion, this is pretty much like the best case scenario for Atlanta, where I really expected that there was going to be a high chance that it just kind of just fell apart, right? Where kind of like 2019 Celtics, where they just had too much talent. But it wasn't like, superstar talent. It was just like good starter level talent, because they have like, they have Trae Young, Bogdanovic, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, Danilo Gallinari, Clint Capella, and then like, there's still Cam Reddish, who deserves minutes but isn't really getting that because, Atlanta's good right now. Then you also have Okongwu, and earlier this year they had Rajon Rondo too. And of course, Kevin Huerter, who I can't believe I forgot, but now that I know that this isn't going to be a problem for them, this is now without question a huge positive, right? Because they just have so many weapons and shot makers. And that was pretty much the biggest reason why I predicted them to beat New York, despite the fact that like I saw this ESPN poll where I think it was either 18 or 14 out of like the analysts said that the Knicks were going to win the series, and only 2 other people said that the Hawks are going to win. And I'm sorry if you can hear my cat screaming in the background. She's going crazy right now, but I was actually pretty certain, well, not certain, but I truly believe Atlanta would win just because they just have so many weapons where, if Gallinari and Bogdanovic aren't playing well, right, they're not shooting well, they still have guys like Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, who can step up with that shot making. And a lot of teams don't have that privilege of having like basically 6 guys who are all, great shot makers like that. If you look at LA right now, with Anthony Davis out, you kind of see this team's weakness where aside from LeBron and just basically LeBron, nobody else on that team is a consistent, shooter. And once again, this is why I think the Hawks have an actual chance to beat the Sixers. It's not a particularly high chance in my opinion, but it's still a possibility. And once again, a lot of people on the internet are pretty certain the Sixers will win, which is perfectly fair. And if I was to pick, I would also have Philadelphia winning. I'm just saying, I think the odds of this are closer to being like 60-40, in Philadelphia's favor, rather than being like 80-20 in Philadelphia's favor. But in order to do this, I really think Atlanta, they need to capitalize on Joel Embiid not playing game 1, basically. Clint Capella has been awesome on defense against New York, but I just don't think he has the size to guard Joel Embiid in the post. Embiid has literally 40 extra pounds on him, and, he's like 2 to 3 inches taller as well. And Capella has always been a great rim protector against, perimeter players and guards, right? Like guys who are like attacking the basket and Capella's there to contest. But in the post against someone like Embiid, who's just crazy skilled and also really strong, right? Capella's probably going to struggle. And he did struggle in the regular season matchup. I'm pretty sure Capella fouled out, and I don't really take that much stock from those games just because I'm pretty sure Atlanta was missing like half their team at that point. And I think Embiid was also missing for one of the other games as well. But I'm just saying, like, historically, I just wouldn't be surprised if Embiid like fouls Capella out maybe by the 3rd quarter, right? Or Capella just can't guard him. And this is why I'm thinking that Joel Embiid's injury is something that Atlanta needs to take advantage of. And this is also really interesting because apparently Embiid's injury, it's a meniscus tear, right? Apparently he's had it for a while now, and the Sixers just didn't know about it, and Embiid didn't feel it either. And just kind of what happened the other night when he fell down, it kind of, triggered and inflamed it. That's not for certain, but that's just what some people are thinking, and I think Philadelphia also released like their own speculation about that. Anyways, if that was true, then it's actually kind of good news for Philadelphia, because that means that if Embiid was playing on it the whole time and he didn't feel it, then it can't be that serious, right? Although it does put him at higher risk for further more serious injury, because, one more bad twist and fall and he could just tear his meniscus completely. But even with Embiid out, Philadelphia is still, a playoffs team, honestly. Like, if Embiid was out this entire year, I still think that Philadelphia might have made the playoffs just because, it's Ben Simmons still there, elite defender. Dwight Howard's pretty good when he's not fouling out. You still have Tobias Harris, who was amazing against Washington. And then there's also, shooters like Seth Curry. You still have Danny Green playing 3-and-D. Tyrese Maxey stepped up big time. And obviously, Shake Milton too. And by the way, I didn't actually watch any of the Sixers-Washington games just because I didn't really feel a need to. Because, I'm sorry, it just wasn't that interesting to me. But Shake Milton, barely played. And I remember him being a starter in the regular season for a long time. So, if anybody wants to fill me in on that, I'd be happy to learn about that. But anyways, aside from winning game 1, obviously, you still have to win 3 other games. And if Embiid is back for those games, a lot of this will depend on how Atlanta reacts to Philadelphia's defense, right? Because Ben Simmons is a great defender, but I'm still kind of skeptical about putting him on these little short, quick guys like Trae Young, right? And obviously, he'd still do a better job than 99% of NBA players out there, but at the end of the day, he still is kind of like a 6'11" guy, right? So he's bound to struggle a little bit against these shorter players. And who knows, maybe Ben Simmons' length and just sheer quickness is able to just super distract Trae Young anyways. And that's kind of like the swing factor, right? But the fact that Philadelphia doesn't have that kind of shorter, really quicker guard defender does make me a bit nervous, I guess, just because I think Trae Young could kind of just foul out some players, right? We know Trae Young loves drawing free throws. Against the Knicks last night, he shot 13 of them, despite shooting 33% from the field. And to be honest, I don't really think Seth Curry can guard Trae Young. And I don't think Tyrese Maxey or Shake Milton's going to do a great job against him either. So it pretty much falls on Ben Simmons. And who knows, like I said, there's a possibility Simmons just completely suffocates and smothers Trae Young into oblivion, right? And Young just can't get a shot off. He can't, find open people because Ben Simmons is just so tall and big. He just kind of covers up all the passing lanes. But on the other hand, right, Trae Young just might be able to just draw a ton of free throws and fouls. And Atlanta obviously has just a ton of shooters, right? And he's just dotting them up. And especially if Embiid misses extended periods of time, right? That pick and roll offense with Clint Capella and John Collins might be a little bit too much for Philadelphia's big men. Because they have Dwight Howard, of course, but one, I'm still not sure if Howard can play 30 minutes a night and not foul out, because, man, he's really been in trouble with fouls recently. And even so, Capella and Collins are they're both so athletic and such great vertical threats at the basket. It's going to be tough. And with Embiid there, I'm not worried about it just because Embiid, when he's locked in, is a fantastic rim protector. I'm just saying, Philadelphia's backup centers, I'm not so sure about that. Atlanta defensively is also really going to just have to be super locked in, right? Capella, like I said, I don't think he can handle Joel Embiid in the post one-on-one. And they're going to need to bring in double teams. They're going to have to trap him. And Embiid in the past has been terrible at just kind of passing out of double teams, right? That was his biggest weakness. It's the reason why they lost in the playoffs before, mostly because they throw the ball down to Embiid down there. He gets doubled, he gets trapped, and he just throws the ball away. He's gotten better, of course, but that's still his biggest weakness. And if you're Atlanta, you have to just kind of press the issue there. As for Trae Young being a big defensive liability, to be honest, I've always thought that this doesn't really matter that much, just because having one defensive black hole on the perimeter, it's not going to kill you. It's having a bad defender at center. That's kind of the true ruiner of series, I guess. And to be honest, I don't know how much John Collins is going to play, because I feel with the Sixers, if they're putting out Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid, right? I don't think John Collins can guard Tobias Harris, and offensively, he's not really doing enough to maybe justify and warrant that sort of defensive liability. The Hawks might just be better served putting out Danilo Gallinari and DeAndre Hunter at small forward and power forward, right? and having Hunter on Tobias Harris. And then the extra, just more shooting with Gallinari in there too, helps out. But basically, in conclusion, if Atlanta beats Philadelphia, I think they need to first win game 1 with Embiid out, and then afterwards, Trae Young just needs to be amazing, and Bogdanovic, Gallinari, Kevin Huerter, these guys, they need to be lights out from 3. And hey, like I said, there's actually a pretty high possibility of these guys, shooting well from 3 because they're all just fantastic shooters who can shoot like 8 to 9 threes per game pretty easily. Off the top of my head, I actually can't think of another team that has as many shooters as Atlanta does, aside from maybe like the Mavericks and maybe the Jazz too. But yeah, and the key for Philadelphia to win is you gotta shut down Trae Young on a pick and roll, and hopefully Ben Simmons can just completely suffocate him on that end. And that's pretty much Atlanta's offense, right? It's Trae Young, pick and roll, everything flows off past that and the gravity Trae Young has. And then Embiid just dominates them on the other end.